Back again, Codcast, Season 3, Episode 2. Probably one that a lot of people are excited to hear about. There's been a lot of buzzing online and around, as there is every year at this time, who are going to be on the Cape League rosters. Number of reasons why we don't have rosters public yet, just like every other summer league, is that like regionals just finished. Super regionals are still going on. There's a lot of guys who, especially on the pitching side, haven't decided if they're going to pitch this summer or shut it down based on innings limits. So rosters today could look a whole lot different than rosters next week. When these things were put together, most of these rosters were put together last September. There are a lot of things that hadn't happened yet. So there will be baseball next week on the Cape. We're really excited about it. There's going to be a ton of really good players like there are every year. I'm joined today by senior writer Adam Greene. He's done some fantastic work on roster previewing. That's available on the Cape Cod Baseball League website. Go check that out. Adam, welcome to the Codcast.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks, Matt. I'm excited to be here, get the season underway in just a little bit. Got some great baseball the last couple of weeks with everything going on in college. One of the craziest tournaments that I can remember, and it just goes to show that all of the players that are there and all the players that are going to be on the Cape, it's a great time to be a fan of baseball and collegiate baseball, especially. So excited to get this out.
It's so exciting because a lot of people that follow college baseball follow the SEC and the ACC all year. That's a lot of what's kind of front and center. If you got SEC Network, ACC Network, ESPN2, if you're going to catch college baseball. But mid-major college baseball, big spotlight during the regionals. A lot of mid-majors showed up in a big way. It's still alive and well. And, every year there's big-time mid-major players that come to the Cape. They get their name out there. They become draft picks. They make money. So really excited to kind of dive into some of these names, dive into some of these rosters, again, with the disclaimer that, we did our best to kind of go through here and see realistically, like, who are we going to see come opening day on the Cape? And we're going to pull out some names. We're going to go through this pretty quick, and hopefully anybody who listens is going to have a pretty good feel for what's coming.
Yeah, 100%. And I just want to add, one of the beauties of the Cape League is that you really never know who you're gonna. Of course, there's some guys that are there for 30, 40 games a season, but you never know. You might get a guy that's there for a week and turns out to have one of the best weeks all season, and then he goes on to have a great season. So you never know what type of player you're going to see. And the turnover is another great part of the league. Like we saw last year in the playoffs, part of Harwich's great run was because they brought in some of these guys mid-year and late in the season, and they turned out to be huge helps in the playoffs.
100%. If you didn't listen to the first episode of Season 3 with field manager Steve Engler from Harwich, go check that out. We dove into some of the names that kind of came along late and really helped with that playoff push, got them the 2024 championship. One of the best stories of the Cape. You can go check that out on Instagram. Got a really nice clip that was put together by Elissa Bowers, social media team. So big shout out to her. Obviously with Adam, Elissa, you go all over the Cape. There's talented college kids, not just on the field, also off the field and around the field. I think that's important to shout out, something that we want to get into, in later episodes, is kind of putting the spotlight on the Cape as being a career jumping off point. But that's for another episode. Adam, let's get right into it. I want to start with Harwich. One second. Let me just pause for a second. I got to go make sure my dog doesn't bark. All right, we should be good to go. I'll just cut it from here. All right, let's get going. Harwich, Adam, what do you got on the defending champs?
Yeah, so entering the season with a target on their back now as the defending champs. But returning, we have right-handed pitcher Blake Morningstar from Wake Forest. He just made the All ACC first team, and he had a great season. He can hit upper 90s on the fastball, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do in his second year back with Harwich. And then one of the interesting stories that I found out about when I was diving into Harwich is they have Kentucky's Tyler Bell coming to play for them, and he was actually the highest draftee in the 2024 MLB draft that did not sign. He was drafted 66 overall to the Rays, and he didn't end up signing out of high school. And then he went to go play for Kentucky. He made All SEC freshman team, so he's going to be down Harwich this summer. And then the last guy I wanted to quickly shout out is Aiden Teal. He's following the footsteps of his brother Kyle, who went to go play for Harwich. You may or may not know who anyone's listening. Kyle Teal was drafted by the Red Sox in the first round in 2023. He was a big part of the Garrett Crochet trade that went down in December at the winter meetings. So it's pretty cool that Aiden, who also played at UVA, is going to follow in his footsteps and, has a great chance to also be drafted once he's eligible this summer and kind of, following that same path that his brother was on.
Yeah, that's a great call out. Kyle Teal, obviously really talented first rounder out of Virginia, part of that Crochet trade, like you mentioned, and knocking on the door to the big leagues. I do want to call out a couple other names that I saw on this roster, and having talked to Steve Englert last week. I mean, the first one that kind of popped out to me, I was watching Wright State play Vanderbilt this weekend, and Wright State ended up knocking national 1 seed Vanderbilt out of the field of 64 right out of the tournament. They didn't win the game on Friday, but Cam Allen threw 6 no-hit innings against Vanderbilt in Nashville. And I saw Cam Allen's name on the Harwich roster, so I was like, hey, that's fun. So you got Cam Allen, Sam Harris from Duke, hit 9 home runs this spring. Younger guy, 311, 983 OPS, so he's going to bring some punch. Aiden Robbins is a returning player. That's one that Steve was really excited about. Put up video game numbers at Seton Hall this spring. I believe he just jumped in the portal. So big summer on the Cape. Could potentially find him at an SEC school next year. We'll see on that. I will put out a little caveat that I think Tyler Bell has accepted an invite to USA, so we may or may not see him. Hopefully he does come at some point. Eric Becker is another name that was on this roster that accepted a Team USA invite. So a couple guys in the middle infield. Rest assured, there will be middle infielders in Harwich. It's actually a really interesting Japanese player from Kansas State, Shintaro Inoue. And he's on the smaller side, but he can really hit. I believe he walked more than he struck out this spring, and he hit well for Kansas State, which is a pretty good program. So, Harwich, looking ready to defend their title, and no shortage of talent, regardless of who comes in for however long.
Yeah, and Coach Englert's so great. Obviously, the conversation you had with him last week, but he's going to get the most out of his guys.
No doubt. All right, let's go not too far up the road. Let's head on down to Chatham. And what do you got on the Chatham Anglers heading into 25?
Yeah, so Texas is not in the College World Series, so Will Gasparino returning to the Cape. He didn't have the numbers that maybe he wanted last summer when he was with the Anglers, but he had a great bounce back year at Texas. The OPS was up, the average was up, and the power seemed to be back. So you can look for him patrolling the outfield. And then you have third baseman Gavin Gallagher from UNC. Shout out Grace Nugent. She knows all about the UNC guys. I'm sure she's going to be able to tell you all about these guys. But he's coming over from YD. He was there last summer, and he's having a great year. And obviously, UNC's looking like one of the best teams in the country this year. So it's always interesting to see what a guy can do in his second year on the Cape, especially when it's with a different team. And then they have Ashton Larson coming back from last year, and he was an all-star last summer. So it'll be interesting to see if he can, kind of replicate what the season he had last year. And then Chase Freilich is coming over from Auburn. That Auburn to Chatham pipeline is really strong. We saw Ike Irish there last year, and now he's looking like one of the best players in college baseball. So Freilich moving Irish to the outfield from catcher obviously shows the talent there. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do once he does end up on the Cape.
Yeah, and I'm going to double down on your Auburn Tiger with Cade Bellew. Bellew? Cade Bellew? It's either Bellew or Bellew. I don't know.
Cade Bellew.
Bellew. Yeah, we'll say Cade Bellew. We want to make sure you get his name right. Toolshed outfielder at Auburn. Kind of came out of the gate hot this year. Has performed pretty much all spring. Has a chance to really kind of, in my opinion, when I look at these rosters, that's a guy who could go to the Cape and become a top 3 round draft next year, just off the tools and the season that he had at Auburn. So really excited about that one. It's a slew of arms. I do want to call out that this is the roster that Jake Hanley is supposed to be on. I don't know if the Cape's going to see Jake Hanley or not. One of the top freshmen in the country, Indiana. He's pretty special. That's a big bat. I would imagine that he's going to have some opportunities with Team USA. Hopefully he shows up, because if he does, that's going to be one to watch, whether it's for a week or however long he's on the Cape. But back to the arms side of things, I'm going to call out Gavin Jones is on this roster from Oklahoma. Really tough on lefties. He was a high school draft of the Mets. You got Mason Bixby, who was up to 99 with a 90-mile-per-hour slider and probably has no idea where it's going yet. That could be a big arm that could take a leap forward. Bryant Yoke, I believe is how it's pronounced, or it could be Yoak. Hopefully he cements himself and everyone knows how to pronounce his name this summer. But he's got big stuff. He was up to 97 this spring. Big spin on the slider, ton of whiff, and just few strikes this spring. I think that's kind of a recurring theme. The Cape's a great place for a pitcher with big stuff who didn't have a lot of success or innings as a freshman to go and kind of refine, much like we saw with Blake Morningstar and Harwich last year, where he was coming off of being a reliever, not a ton of innings, not a ton of success, and then really blossomed after his summer on the Cape. And then the last one that I want to call out is really interesting. A lefty from Dallas Baptist. He's a spin god. Mason Peters, starters mix, 6 pitches, breaking balls up near 2,900 RPM, flat VA on the fastball. He's a little bit of like an analytic stream, generates a ton of whiff, and he threw the first 6 innings of a combined no-hitter earlier this spring in May. So Chatham, looking at this roster, is just loaded with talent. Hopefully, they're able to get a lot of these guys in, and it kind of has the makings, if it comes together, of a team to watch this summer.
100%. And Chatham everyone loves Chatham for the field. So if you mix that in with a great pool of talent, it's like, what's not to love?
Yeah, Chatham's due to do something. It's been a minute since Chatham's has made a run at it. So I don't know. We'll see. Up the road, Orleans. Give me something on the Firebirds.
Yeah, so obviously we got Roch Chalowski, one of the best players in college. He was there last summer, but now he's with UCLA, and he just had an unreal, or he's in the midst, I should say, of an unreal season. A 1261 OPS. It just like you dream about those types of numbers. 72 RBIs. So if he's back in Orleans playing shortstop, that'll be a treat to watch. And then we have left-handed pitcher Miles Gastola from Gonzaga. He had a 1.59 ERA and 22 and 2/3 innings last summer. So if he's back, that's another arm to look out for. And in a conversation with Coach Nicholson, he told me to keep an eye on Alejandro Garza, nicknamed the Peanut. And he's a third baseman, and his calling card is that he doesn't strike out. He struck out only 16 times this collegiate season, and I don't know how many at bats, but to put it into perspective, he had 21 walks. So 21 to 16 walk to strikeout. It's pretty good. And back to the pitching side, Coach Nicholson and that entire pitching staff is always just pumping out great arms left and right. I mean, some of the best arms you see across the minors and the major leagues are from Orleans. So always have a great pipeline for arms there.
Yeah, this man's really nicknamed the Peanut.
That's his nickname. It's gonna be awesome to get down there and probably and hopefully hear why, because I couldn't tell you why, but we're gonna have to figure that one out.
Yeah, that's going to be an absolute treat for Orleans fans. Yeah, Kelly's always got a really solid bunch. He always keeps it loose. He's got that, the California vibe about him. Yeah, you called out Rock Chalowski. I mean, he's kind of an early favorite to go 1-1 in the next draft. So if he's able to get to the Cape for a couple weeks, fingers crossed that we see him. That's a special talent, like you said. I want to call out Cashel Duggar, catcher at UCLA. He's the everyday catcher at UCLA who's having a really good year. They just advanced to super regional, hit 277, walked more than he struck out. Ryan Kucharak is kind of an interesting name. He hit 289 with 18 home runs at Northwestern this year after transferring from LSU, primary shortstop for Northwestern. So kind of fun. We hear a lot about the transfer portal, guys moving. That's going to be another theme of the summer, as it is, now every year. But Kucharak being one of those guys that didn't really play at LSU as a freshman, went to Northwestern, seized an opportunity, and now he sees himself on the Cape. Got to call out Robbie Levy, catcher from George Washington. Shout out to John Castleberry, commissioner of the Cape. There's a George Washington Orleans connection heading his way. He hit 311 with an 844 OPS this spring. No doubt that's going to be a favorite of John Castleberry with that connection. And then the last one that I kind of want to, give a nod to is Luke Nixon. For any Red Sox fans that are buzzing around that remember Trot Nixon and his pine tar lid playing right field in the early 2000s, fan favorite. His son, Luke Nixon, was the primary second baseman at NC State this spring, hit 295, good ball player. He's going to be up in Orleans for the summer. So Orleans, another roster that looks really interesting. They'll be good, as they always are. All right, Adam, take me on down to Brewster.
Yeah, I mean, Brewster looking to return to the playoffs after narrowly missing out last year, just barely didn't make the picture after they fell out on the last day of the season. But the good news is, it looks like Ryder Helfrich is going to be back in Brewster. Obviously, one of the best players in college baseball, catcher for Arkansas. And last season on the Cape, he was a surefire MVP candidate, did not win. However, he led the league in home runs and RBIs with 11 homers and 37 RBIs last season. So, whenever you can get a talent like that coming back, it's something to be excited about. And I also have third baseman Daniel Cuvée from Miami coming back. Quick story about him. I was walking around Stony Brook Field last year during a game, and I wasn't really paying attention. I was kind of talking to a couple people on the side, and then I just heard the loudest home run that I think like I've ever heard. And Cuvée hit a ball that I thought was like 500 feet, but he's got some power, so he's one to look out for. And then they also have Brendan Lawson, first baseman from Florida, coming down, who is coming off a great freshman year. He made the All SEC freshman team, and he gets on base. He had a 417 OBP this season, and he's going to be one of the guys that can really be a spark for that offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit on some of these guys, Helfrich, Cuvée, two returning guys. If both those guys come back, I mean, that's how you put together the middle of a lineup. That'll be as good as any team on the Cape if those guys are in there for sure. I mean, Cuvée, as you mentioned, is just a mountain of a human being, and he plays a slick third base. He kind of looks the part of a future big league third baseman. So hopefully we see some more of Cuvée. I want to call out Cal Fisher with Florida State. Was watching the regional this weekend. Mississippi State was up 2-0. Middle innings, sixth inning, something like that, on Sunday afternoon, and he hit a bomb that either put Florida State ahead or tied them up. But watched him at the ACC tournament a couple weeks ago. He hit over 300. Their regular third baseman. So he'll be up in Brewster. Manny Marine, another guy who hit a big home run during the regional final against Wake Forest. Bat's a little bit light, but he should slot right into that middle infield at Tennessee next year with Gavin Kylan and Dean Curley, presumably moving on in the MLB draft into Pro Bowl. So if we see him, great. And then this one is the one that I'm probably going to most comp to Blake Morningstar. Well, we have a lot of different arms around the Cape that didn't have a lot of innings and big stuff and are slated to be coming. Duncan Marston was a name that got some interest. Is Harvard Westlake High School out in the greater Los Angeles area, known for, among others, Max Fried, Lucas Giolito, Jack Flaherty, Pete Crow Armstrong. Duncan Marston up to 96 this year. Didn't throw a whole lot. Wake Forest arm. Saw him against Tennessee this past weekend in the regional. It's big stuff. That's a really exciting arm that hopefully Brewster is able to ride for an entire summer with how many innings that he could potentially throw, given that he's healthy. So Brewster is in I'll lean on you a little bit on this one. That's a team that feels like every single year they find themselves right in the thick of it.
Yep. I mean, last year like I said, they were squarely in the playoff picture, and then they just narrowly fell out on the last day. But Coach Shevchik always does a great job up there, and obviously they were they won the championship just a couple years ago, and he's done a great job since taking over. And some of the best bats in the minors, like you think about some of the Yankees power bats, you have Aaron Judge, Spencer Jones, both Brewster alumni. So if you can dream on that type of player profile, I think that's a great thing for fans of Brewster to think about when you have guys like I mentioned, Cuvée coming through Brewster and trying to kind of be that type of power bat.
Yeah, awesome breakdown there. Let's finish up the East with the Whitey Red Sox. What do you got on Pickler's group for 2025?
Yeah, Whitey was awesome last year. But they've one of the best team in the East in the regular season. But as we know, baseball it's a hard game, and the best team doesn't always win. But two good names to look for on this team. The first is returning outfielder Phoenix Call from UCLA. I believe he was actually the only player in the Cape League to play every regular season game last summer. So that's, to be able to have your name attached to that is pretty cool. And quick note on him, he made one of the best catches I've ever seen in person. We had a game in Orleans last summer on Nesson, and it was a close game, top of the ninth, and sorry, bottom of the ninth in Orleans. And there was a fly ball hit out to deep center field, and he made an over the shoulder grab to end the game on Nesson. And that's one of the moments that you don't forget when you're down on the Cape. That was an awesome catch. So it'll be great to see what he can do back with YD. And obviously, the bat has taken a step forward after his time at UCLA. And then the other name I want to highlight is Vanderbilt third baseman Brody Johnson. He looked like he was going to be one of the best freshmen in the SEC, and that is exactly what he was. He made the All SEC freshman team, and he made the All SEC defensive team. So another talent that's going to be with Coach Pickler and the great staff at YD that they're going to be able to mold and turn into one of the great pro prospects that they always seem to be turning out.
Yeah, and I want to throw a couple more position players on the fire here because there's some interesting names here. And a couple of guys that kind of got off to good starts and then got hurt and then missed most of the spring. So it would be really – and I know Avery Ortiz from Oklahoma State, middle infielder, he's one of those guys, right? Got off to a really good start this year, got hurt, kind of disappeared, resurfaced this past week. He was getting at-bats during the regional down in Athens, Georgia. That's a guy that I'm really excited to see. Athletic, hits the ball hard, kind of compact, strong. Be interesting to see what Avery Ortiz can do this summer. TJ Pompey, Texas Tech this past spring. He played his last game in March. I think he's healthy for the summer. If he is, Ortiz and Pompey are going to be two guys to have your eyes on. Pompey is a little bit more of a traditional look. It's a good body. It's a good swing. He hits. He plays on the dirt. It's like the prototypical looking shortstop, 6'4", broad shoulders, wiry, and just does everything smooth. And then the last one I want to call out is Chase Williams from Florida State, outfielder. Really runs, really hits. A little bit of like a spark plug type player. Really looking forward to seeing what Chase Williams can do. A lot of those Florida State bats are exciting. That lineup, they hit top to bottom. So anytime you can get Florida State in your lineup on the Cape, East good.
Good things happen.
Good things happen.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and quick note. They have the All-Star game this year, so that's cool. July 19th, Saturday, YD. We have the All-Star game this year. And also just congrats to Coach Pickler. Last year he hit 600 wins, first to do so on the Cape. So for sure one of the all-time greats, and it'll be great to see what he does in another year of coaching.
Yeah, and just on that note, it looks like Coach Pickler's son Jeff will be joining him on staff this year for the first time, which is really exciting because he brings years and years and years of experience in pro ball across a number of different roles. He's been in the dugout, been on the player development side. So another brilliant mind in that dugout for YD as we head into the summer. But I want to flip it over to the West and let's get it going with Bourne.
Yeah, Bourne is in rarefied air right now. They are looking to make it to their 4th straight championship series, and that's something that hasn't been done since I think it was the 1966 to 1971 Commodores made it to however many, that's like 5 or 6 straight championship series, and that was the last time anyone's made 4. So if Bourne can get back this year, then they're going to put themselves in some really I guess the good way to put it is just Cape League history, because that's not something you see every day. But to get into the players, they have they have first baseman from Arkansas, second baseman too, Cam Koziel, transferred from Vanderbilt. He had 15 homers this year, which was a big step in his power numbers. So he'll be back, slated to be back with Bourne. And then they have outfielder Braden Holcomb from Vanderbilt coming back. And the numbers might not have been what they were expected to be last time he was with Bourne, but him and Koziel back together. They were teammates at Vanderbilt last year after Koziel transferred. So that'll be a good story to follow with them kind of being reunited after being, I guess, rivals in the SEC. And then, of course, want to note Kuhio Aloy, one of the best players in the SEC, another Razorback at Arkansas. He was on the All-SEC team and just had a great sophomore season after transferring from BYU. And of course, his brother Wahiwa was with YD last summer, one of the best players in the league, and one of the best players in the SEC, winning SEC Player of the Year. So to have that, the Aloy blood is great, and it's looking like they are going to be some of the best pro prospects coming out of college in this time frame.
Yeah, you got to love the Aloys rep in Hawaii. I saw a tweet the other day. It was like there was a flight of young baseball players flying from Hawaii to California or something, and they were all wearing Arkansas gear.
That's awesome.
There's like, oh, this is the next. There's a bunch of Wahiwas and Kuyos on here. So, no, that's fun. I looked at this Bourne roster and I got really excited because there's a lot of really interesting position player talent that maybe it isn't as well known per se. The first one that jumped out to me, Lee Ellis, a shortstop at Ohio State. He had a really good year this year after transferring from South Carolina, where he didn't play a whole lot as a freshman. He's got some power. He can really run. He can pick it at short, and he had himself a nice year at Ohio State. So Lee Ellis, that's another one that I kind of have circled as like that could be a top pro prospect if he comes and he stays all summer and he performs. So Peyton Bonds, if the last name rings a bell, that's the nephew of Barry Bonds.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. So he's huge. You're not going to miss him. I think he's like 6'4", 225. He runs. He plays the outfield. He had a good year. I believe he was at Rutgers this year after transferring from Campbell. There's real tools there, and it's a pro body, and it's bloodlines, more or less. Could be a really interesting name to watch this summer on the Cape. Ryan Cooney, primary second baseman at Oregon, 335, more walks than Ks. With Oregon getting bounced in the regional, that's a guy to look out for early on in the Cape. And then there's some big names that are on this roster that is kind of like a little asterisk or question mark. If these guys show up, they will be in Bourne. You got Noah Franco from TCU, talented freshman, two-way player. Chris Lavonis, right-handed pitcher at Wake, also a freshman, not a ton of innings this year. You might see him. Chase Myers, one of my favorite arms for this next class, is from West Virginia. He was on the Cape last summer, and then Caden Sorrell, outfielder at Texas A&M. So Bourne, just from like a pure talent standpoint, just really loaded. And again, I think even if 80% of these guys show up, they got a chance at Cape League history.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's one of the storylines I'll be following because honestly, last year it did not look like Bourne was at the level that they had been playing at the last couple of years, but you turn around and they're right back in the championship series, vying for that third one. And they came up short, but hey, they might be right back at it this year.
All right, take me over the bridge. Wareham Gatemen.
Yeah, so Wareham has one of the more interesting rosters this summer. They have a good amount of returners, but also some stacked talent that's incoming. They have the two returners that I have in mind are right-handed pitchers Jacob Faulkner and Tate McGuire. Faulkner coming back from Princeton and McGuire coming from Arkansas. Both of them were all-stars last summer. I think I just mentioned that. But to have them back in the bullpen is going to be really special because those are guys that the gatemen and the staff there knows that they can rely on in high leverage situations. And then they have right-handed pitcher Jordan Stevens coming in from Georgia, one of the most electric relievers in college baseball, in my opinion. He can hit triple digits, and from what I can tell and from what I've seen from him, just one of the best in those high leverage spots. So you pair him with those two returning all stars, and you really have something cooking in the Wareham bullpen. And then also, I know earlier we were talking about that Wright State Vanderbilt game from a couple days ago, the first one that they played, and you mentioned Cam Allen and how great he was. But Vanderbilt wouldn't have won that game without first baseman Riley Nelson hitting that homer in the eighth inning. And he's going to be with Wareham this summer. So he's another one to look out for.
Yeah, and looking at this roster, they always have talented freshmen. Lazaro Calera from Miami sticks out to me. This was a name to know out of high school. He was up to 95 this spring, big breaking ball. He didn't have a ton of innings at Miami, so hopefully he can be one of the guys that they lean on and he really develops, takes that step forward. Hunter Carnes, catcher at Florida State, if we see him, he reminds me a little bit of Grant J, played in Cotuit last summer, if you remember that name. Compact, strong, hits the ball as hard as anybody, really athletic. If he can cut down on some of those strikeouts, that's going to be a guy to put stars next to when you pull rosters on your way into the ballpark. And then the last one that's kind of interesting to me is Michael Lombardi, who maybe coming into this year wasn't anticipating potentially being a draft. He is draft eligible, and he did put up a massive spring. So kind of interesting. He struck out 73 and 42 innings. I think he had a sub 3 ERA, might have been a sub 2 ERA at Tulane. Again, coming into when these rosters were put together last fall, there was probably a little bit more of like, yeah, this is a guy, that we're going to be able to get for the whole summer. There's a good chance that you see him show up for a couple weeks before the draft, but this is a guy that probably come middle of July is changing uniforms and signing a pro contract. So, yeah, another interesting roster there. Anything else to add on Wareham?
Yeah, the Wareham was fantastic last season. It didn't start off great, but by the middle of the season they looked like one of the best teams in the league, and that's exactly what they were. They were putting up crazy offensive numbers, and again, I would say the same thing happened with YD. Sometimes you just look great through the entire season and then it doesn't end up working the way you wanted it to. But the staff there, Coach Smith and hitting coach Mike Mobbs are going to do a great job with the roster that they have this summer.
the Gatemen. We'll see what they have in store when things kick off in the next week or so.
And renovated field. So
yeah.
keep an eye out for that.
The gravel is gone.
It is.
The gravel is gone. I'm sure there are many generations of Cape League players that will miss blowing their pants open on the gravel. Let's go down to Falmouth. What do you got on Falmouth?
Yeah, Falmouth, new coach. They have former 2013 World Series champion Jared Saltalamacchia coming in. Obviously, mate was with the Bourne Braves for those 3 championships that they were in, but now he is field manager at Falmouth. And returning, they have outfielder Zion Rose from Louisville. And when I think 5-tool player, that is exactly what I think of. He's got one of the best bats in the ACC. The power's there, the hit tools there, speed. He can do it all, and it's going to be really interesting to see what he can do back in Falmouth for his second year. I think he has like 30 stolen bases on the college season, so he's always a threat to steal a bag. And then talking to a couple scouts, one of the names to keep an eye on that I've heard is Bear Harrison, Connor Harrison, but goes by Bear from Texas A&M. Looking like he's going to be one of the premier power bats on the Cape, and he just absolutely mashes. Texas A&M didn't have the season that they wanted to have, but if he can even come close to what expectations are, which are sky high for him, he's going to be a guy that you cannot miss this summer. He's going to be a really fun guy to watch play.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think Bear Harrison is the brother of San Francisco Giants big league left-handed pitcher Kyle Harrison. I don't know. You can Google that if you need to Google. Mark Quattrani is the first name that I want to mention when I mention Falmouth. This is the regular catcher for Ivy League school Cornell. Steady hitter, doesn't strike out much. He posted a 966 OPS this spring after posting a 1200 OPS as a freshman. Advanced hitter, handles a staff. Gotta love an Ivy League player. They pop up all the time. On the Cape, in pro ball as prospects, and then in the big leagues. Ben Rice is an example. Kyle Hendricks was an Ivy League guy. There's Ivy League guys everywhere. So is Mark Quattrani the next? We don't know, but he is going to be in Falmouth, and he is going to be steady as they come. Couple other names that I saw on Falmouth's roster. Might be the biggest guy on the Cape, size-wise, frame-wise, Mac Hewer from, I believe, Texas Tech. He's like 6'6", 265, something like that. It reminds me a little bit of like Luke and Baker. It's like one of those things you just shake his hand and it just swallows you whole. But he was up to 99 this spring. He can spin it. He's got a 5 to 6 pitch mix. If he shows up, he's going to be a problem. The last one here is John Smith from South Al. Got to give love to South Al. He had a good year. He hit 314. He walked plenty, showed some pop, primarily the right field. Give him a chance to play center field, and I think it's in there. He's an athlete. He's got tools. He had a huge year the previous year at Pensacola State before he went to South Al. I believe he just jumped in the portal, so there's a good chance that it's going to be a lot of college coaches buzzing around his games to try and snatch that one up, because that's a really good ball player. So anything else on the doors?
Yeah, it's obviously very saddened to hear the passing of longtime coach Jeff Trundy, but he's set up that program incredibly, and what he means to that community can't be understated. So I think they have a great manager taking over to carry on his legacy, but of course want to mention Coach Trundy and what he means to the Cape League, and uh, obviously the former or class of 2024 Hall of Fame. So they're obviously gonna be playing for a little something extra this season. So just keep an eye on what Falmouth can do.
That's a great call out, and his legacy is going to live on. He was synonymous with Cape Cod baseball, so yeah, good shout out there. Let's go penultimate Hyannis Harbor Hawks. What do we got going in Hyannis this summer?
Yeah, Hyannis, under first-year manager Mitch Carricker last year, they led the league in run differential, and I believe they had the best record. So, coming off that season, see what they can build upon. But they have left-handed pitcher Dominic Carbone coming back. He had a 2.25 ERA at Coastal Carolina this year, and he's going to return as one of the top relievers in the Cape League. They relied on him heavy towards the middle slash back half of the season last year. So having him coming back is a huge boost for the bullpen. And another boost for the bullpen is coming in right-handed pitcher Josh Och from Southern Mississippi. And I was diving into his stats, and I couldn't believe what I saw. He had 8 relief appearances last year. He only allowed 1 hit. I mean, that's as dominant as it gets. So to get him back is another huge addition for the Hyannis bullpen. And then at the plate, outfielder Andrew Williamson from UCF is expected to be one of the top hitters in the Cape League. That's expectation for him. He had an 1110 OPS at college this year, so they're adding a premier bat to their lineup right there. And if they can replicate those offensive numbers from last year, that's going to be really scary with him in the middle of that lineup.
Yeah, Hyannis has some interesting names, and you called out some arms there, and I got some arms to call out as well. Lefty Mason Russell from the desert. This was a guy out of high school that a lot of guys were on. He's a low 90s lefty right now. Probably needs to add some strength, some physicality. He's got a really, really good slider. Didn't pitch much this spring. When he did, it wasn't great, but there's a ton of arm talent there. And he's another one of those guys where when the rubber meets the road, he's a prospect. So hopefully that's the summer on the Cape. There's another lefty by the name of Ethan Plog. Now, there aren't a ton of junior college guys that come to the Cape, but this is a junior college guy that comes to the Cape with a commitment to LSU. Lefty with big stuff. And I think Jay Johnson's probably hoping that he comes to the Cape and he develops over the course of, 4, 5, 6 weeks, gets his feet wet against some better competition, and that eases the transition into the SEC in the fall. So big opportunity for Ethan Plog on that end, being an LSU commit coming in out of a junior college. Interesting name to kind of circle there. I do want to call out Charlie Bates. That was a guy that I really liked out of high school. High school shortstop. He's at Stanford. He played primarily center field as a freshman. He was known for the bat out of high school. We'll see if he ends up on the dirt. We'll see if he plays on the dirt this summer. I think as a freshman, you kind of play wherever you kind of fit in. And at Stanford this spring, like I said, that was in center field. So you might see him there. 2 names that are they're on this roster, and if they show up to the Cape, this is where they'll be. The biggest power bat in the entire country, I would say this is, and he's a freshman. I would say this is a guy, without a doubt, who has the best power in the country. Miles Bailey at Florida State.
Oh man, I saw that homer he hit at what was like one of the games in the SEC tournament. Unbelievable.
It was crazy. It cleared the bleachers in Durham at the DBAP where the Durham Bulls play, which is not easy to
Oh,
do.
I said SEC tournament, ACC tournament. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so Miles Bailey, and then here's an SEC guy for you that I'm a huge fan of is Chris Rembert, another guy at Auburn who's still playing right now. That guy is as talented as anybody.
Yeah, the Hyannis is, if they're just as good as last year, then that's like a shoe-in to be one of the best teams in the league.
No doubt. All right, let's finish it off. Let's go down to Cotuit. We got to make sure that we get this one in before the sun goes down. What do you got on the Cotuit Kettleers?
Yeah, Cotuit under new management as well. They have Lauren Hibbs coming in to manage the Kettleers, and one of the names that I think I've been asked the most about this spring and late in the winter, everyone asks me is Sasaki coming to the Cape? Yes, first baseman Rintaro Sasaki from Stanford is coming to the Cape. I don't think that we've had such a highly acclaimed and anticipated international prospect in a long time. I mean, this is a guy that everybody had their eye on when he announced that he was going to come play originally at Vanderbilt, then flip the commitment to Stanford. Just an unbelievable player. Maybe didn't have the numbers or the stats that you might expect, but the jump from Japan to college baseball is not straightforward as one may seem. But here's a stat for you. He has the most high school home runs in the history of Japan. That's it. That's the stat. Who'd he pass? Shohei Ohtani. So, yeah, so some great company right there, or maybe not company. He's passed him, so he's number one. But yes, Rentaro Sasaki will be playing for Cotuit this summer. So myself and everybody else should be watching him this summer. And then we have Jaron Advincula coming back to the Cape, the 2024 batting champion at 392 with the Kettleers. And he was an all-star, one of the best players in the league. So he's going to be back in Cotuit playing second base for them. So that's going to be exciting as well.
Yeah, this is probably the roster that I looked at, and I was like, if you're gonna bet on a team to have the best pro prospects, I think that Cotuit would probably be your best bet because you got the most guys on there, in my opinion, that I think have a chance to really show off what they can do this summer. I mean, you got Caden Bogenpole is listed on this roster. I hope we see him. That dude's huge. I don't know if you're familiar with Bogenpole. He's like 6'4", 225, runs like a gazelle, and he just terrorizes baseballs. Early favorite to go early, I think, in the 2026 draft. I don't know if Cotuit's going to see him or not. I hope he comes, even if for part of the summer, because that guy's going to be a spectacle. Imagine him and Rentaro in the middle of the same lineup. That would just be
unreal.
Just unreal. But a ton of athletes, kind of mixed in there as well. So you got Jay Abernathy, talented freshman at Tennessee, played a lot of outfield. I think he's going to end up on the dirt at some point. At least that's where he played in high school. He's got a chance to really develop this summer. Drew Dickerson kind of came on late for Oklahoma. I think he homered 3 times in the regional at UNC. Big power, big physical pro build. If he can cut down on some of the swing and miss, he's as good as anybody from a pro lens. Ryan Farber, who had an outstanding freshman year at Texas State, kind of took a little bit of a step back. So he's trying to get back on track. He's really interesting. Perry Hargett, another athlete from UNC, who saw plenty of time this year. I think he's got a chance in the next 2 years to put himself on the map. And then pair outfielders, Easton Winfield coming back for another summer. He was really good freshman year at Louisiana Monroe, hopped in the portal, transferred to Texas, didn't play a whole lot this year at Texas. Kind of looking to reinsert himself into the conversation as a prospect this summer. Keep your eyes on him. The talent is there. And then the last one is Andrew Wiggins, a really talented, athletic, long, rangy outfielder at Indiana. The power numbers haven't quite been there yet, but we know he can run. It's a big frame. The power's in there if he can get to some better angles, and he walked more than he struck out. So there is some plate discipline there and some good decisions. So, Cotuit, from a pure lineup standpoint, they look about as dangerous as anybody.
Yeah, and they're always one of the best when it comes to that. And you mentioned stealing bases is kind of their specialty there. I'm always looking to see what they can do when they get these guys that have 70, 75 grade speed potential. And Advincula fits that mold. And then some of the other names you mentioned are going to be right there with them. So that's another thing to watch when you're at Lowell Park watching the Kettleers this summer.
Well, Adam, this has been great. Hopefully this scratches the itch for some people who are listening. It is a little bit of an appetizer ahead of the Cape League season opening up in about a week and a half from the time we're recording this. Hopefully we can get this out by the end of the week, ahead of roster release or aligned with roster release so that people can start to get an idea of what they're going to be watching this summer. But no doubt, you talk about college summer baseball. The talent is as good as it's ever been, if not potentially better. Adam, I'm going to put you on the spot here before I kick you out of the booth. What is one player that is must watch for you this summer if you had to go see him?
Oh man, that's a tough one, but I would just the last time we looked at, I would just singing his praises. Rentaro Sasaki has caught my attention, and I'm so excited to see what he can do. But um, I'm gonna kind of go a little off script. I'm gonna give you one more. I'm also watching Braden Holcomb this season. I think he's going to take a massive step forward. He was one of the better players Bourne had last year, and I know I mentioned that the numbers weren't there, but I think it's going to be really special to see what he can do. And I think that uh, the him being reunited with that Bourne coaching staff, I think, is going to be a thing to watch. And and if they've already been to 3 straight, I'm looking at them to go to 4 straight. So I'm going to put Holcomb and Sasaki as my two to keep an eye on this summer. I think those are going to be the two that stand out to me.
Yeah, I'm going to hop in here and I'm going to say Mason Peters if we see him in Chatham, the lefty from DBU. That guy looks really, really interesting. And secondarily, Avery Ortiz and YD. If he comes in healthy, I think he's got a chance to be as good as anyone on the Cape. So, Codcast Season 3, Episode 2, roster preview show. Matt Pajak, Adam Greene. You're going to hear from him some more. He's going to be along for the ride all season long. Adam, thanks for the time. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Appreciate it, Matt.